Welcome back to the vlog and welcome back to Hoskins, Papua New Guinea. My name is Ryan. Today we're heading out to Chocolate Land in Lele. So let's go ahead and get started and get on our way. Alright, all of our switches are good. Everything is back. Our flaps where we want them. I've already checked these. All of my circuit breakers. Our fuel is on, so igniter on, ignition on, fuel pump on, and low start. Oil pressure is starting to come up in G's over 14%, so we can introduce our fuel. At this point, I'm just watching the NG to see if it's continuing to come up. Our ITT is also coming up at a nice smooth rate. Peaks out at 697 and drops off. We can turn our igniters off, fuel pump back to standby. Generator on, get a prop forward out of feather. Some of you guys have asked what it means by that. Basically, the propeller can change pitch. It can, basically, instead of just going through the wind like a knife blade, it can actually turn sideways, which is what it does when you go into feather. Alright, let's get these blowers going because it's already over 90 degrees in here. It's only 8 in the morning, 8:41 in the morning. Alright, fuel caps and selectors. I did just have some fuel put in and I checked that. Our controls are good. Our TAWs will leave on for now. Our switches and our instruments, I'm going to come over to my aux page, look at my weight, I'm at 5370. So our takeoff rotate speed is going to be 63 knots. Direction 54 knots and 63 knots if I have to come back in. Go out just below 5,000 today just because it's only 26-minute flight and field elevation is 2,400 feet there. Flaps are set, indicated, and verified at 20 degrees. Our trim and abort is already set up. We'll talk about abort once we get closer, and let's go ahead and start our taxi.
All stations Hoskins 127.1, Kodiak November Tango Kilo, taxiing runway 12 for departure to the east, below 5,000, all stations Hoskins.
We've got a fairly busy day today. I started in Goroka right here. Came out here on this pink line all the way out. We're at the blue dot now. We're heading out to Lele, back to the blue dot, then up to the AYWS, then Sidor, Madang, and then back to Goroka. I should be back home 2:30, and then I took off at 6 this morning. So yeah, no breaks in about 8.5 hours. And it's 771 nautical miles. So just to give you an idea, reference, if you're from the States, if you're in Los Angeles and you drove all the way out to just about Texas, that's about how far I'll be flying today. This is ForeFlight if you guys are not familiar with what this is. Alright, if we're not 50 knots, let's see, we're at the 500 foot marker. If we're not 50 knots by the 1500 foot marker, we'll full reverse heavy braking. Flaps up, cut off, pull off, and shut off if we're going off. After takeoff, we're going to pitch for 85. Consider our EPL, which is our emergency power lever. It's basically an override for this power lever, otherwise cut off. And we'll look for the field straight ahead if it's immediately after or whatever's best ahead of us. Then cut off, pull off, shut off, 80 full flaps. And we'll watch for birds because I almost hit 2 of them on landing just a minute ago, so. Right, ignition, landing lights bypass, that's all good. Harness is low idle, we're 32 degrees at sea level, so 1540 for 1590. We'll do SAR here in a second. Having all kinds of HF problems today. Ignition condition flaps 20. Fuel and harnesses 1540, rotate 54. Alright, there's torque is set, airspeed's alive, there's 50, continue, I don't see any birds. And let's climb on out at 740 on the ITT. Love taking off at sea level in this thing because it feels, especially empty, it feels like a rocket some days. But it's just a 26-minute flight out there. Nothing too special. I actually have a flight coming back from Lele where we actually go check out the inside of a volcano and stuff. If you want to check that video out, I'll see if I can link it above or just put it down below, whatever YouTube allows me to do. Alright, now that we are over 1,000 foot, we're going to nose over a bit, get our speed up, and get 10 degrees of flaps. And then as we're increasing our airspeed over 90 knots and increasing still, we'll go 0 degrees. And bring our prop back to 2,000 RPM. For our cruise, basically our cruise prop, basically is what it is. Alright, we'll do our bypass back to normal and our igniters are turned off. And let's go ahead and see if we can get a hold of SAR today. Moresby 6622 November Tango Kilo departure. November Tango Kilo departed Hoskins for Lele. Departed Hoskins 47, tracking 069er. Below 5,000, estimating Lele time 23.
All stations Hoskins 127.1, Kodiak November Tango Kilo, departed Hoskins for Lele, outbound track 070 on climb, not above 5,000, all stations Hoskins.
Alright, so this little hill right in front of me is actually a volcano that actually erupted, I think, if I've been told right, I think around 12 years ago, and actually closed Hoskins runway for 6 to 8 months or something, I think, if I remember correctly. Anyways, yeah, it's pretty crazy that it's this close by. Every once in a while you see just kind of some steam in the morning, sometimes just coming out of the trees. Oh, pretty cool nonetheless. Alright, because I'm just at a lower altitude today, I'm just going to follow along the coast, or closer to the coast, just because I didn't bring my life vest or my raft today. I didn't really feel like wearing it again. I already wore it all the way from Goroka. So on hot days like this, they're super uncomfortable. So I'll just stay within gliding distance of the coast for this flight. I'm just going to stay at 3,000 for now because we told them we're going to be below 5,000, which gives us a zone that we can be in, basically. So we're going to bring our torque back 1,250 initially, and then we'll take a look at our fuel flow and see what it is. So we fly either by fuel flow or by torque, or we're limited by ITT. So some of you have asked, like, where do you change that and why do you change it? Because we do all of our flight planning off of a fuel flow of 320. If we're flying over that, it doesn't need to be. So you can see my torque is at 1250, but my fuel flow is at 333. My airspeed is at 138. So typically we cruise around at 130 knots indicated. So I'm going to bring my torque back probably down to 1,200 foot-pound of torque and see what it does to my fuel flow. Looks like it's going to be maybe 1150 maybe. Right, 1170 or so, gives pretty close to 320. So now I'm going to fly by my fuel flow rather than my torque, which still actually gives me a pretty decent amount of airspeed. Typically, like I said, we're usually at 130. So basically, below 5,000, we're going to fly by our fuel flow of 320 from 5,000.
TAWS available.
5,000 all the way up to, depending on what aircraft it is. Kilo here, we're flying today, all the way up to probably 13 to 14,000, somewhere in that range. We'll fly by our torque of 1250, and then anything over 13 to 14,000 and above, now we'll be limited by our ITT, because if we're flying at 1,250 foot-pound of torque, now our ITT is going to be higher than the 700 degrees Celsius on our ITT. So anyways, I'll post this little thing at the bottom, you can see, so that you guys can keep that in mind. If you guys are sim flyers and you're trying to figure out how to fly a turbine engine and what you want to fly by, or what gauges to be looking at, I should say, that would be a really good indicator for you. So we are heading out to Lele, and like I said earlier, it's chocolate land. So we fairly regularly, when we go out there and come back in, we fly back Cacao, which is basically raw chocolate in like the organic form or whatever, basically right off the tree and into, I don't know if it's a nut or a bean. Maybe you guys know, I don't know. I would say it's probably a nut. But anyways, there's a company, Santa Barbara Chocolate, that actually buys some of their cacao from Papua New Guinea, which I think is pretty cool. It's definitely organic because it's just growing on trees out here. But anyways, I'm going to shoot a little video when I'm out here of kind of the process. I'm going to try to talk to some of the farmers that do this, because this is really one of the only cash crops that they have available out here besides tobacco and stuff. But, so I'm going to talk to some of the farmers and see if I can get a little story from them, you know, on what they do, the process, how do they know it's ripe, how they bag it up, things like that. Because basically when I get it in these big, huge burlap sacks that probably weigh, I'm guessing, like 65 kgs or something like that. They're pretty heavy. And then we fly them back to Hoskins, and then they take them over to Kembe and actually sell them over there. So anyways, yeah, I think it's pretty cool that Santa Barbara Chocolate Factory actually does buy some cacao from here in Papua New Guinea. It definitely helps out the locals, which I think is really awesome. They don't really have a lot of ways to make money here in Papua New Guinea besides like coffee, tobacco, cacao, and cacao and cocoa are basically the same thing, but I guess cocoa is just, they've been roasted and ground up from what I've read. That's what I read. I was wondering the same thing, if you are. What's the difference between cocoa and cacao? And it's just basically it's been roasted and ground up just like coffee. So anyways, yeah, if you're interested in seeing that video, I'll just put a link down below and you can check out some on-the-ground content. It's similar to the same stuff, well, it is the same stuff that I do for my patrons. I do some on-the-ground content, walk around, get the drone up, show a little bit of an area. I try to talk to some people every once in a while, or you know, if we're doing a project like fixing a lawnmower or something like that on the ground, I make those kind of videos and put it on my Patreon page if you guys are interested. But I'll leave this one completely open for anybody to watch, though, if you guys are interested. We're going to be coming up to a river here shortly that is, I would say, probably the prettiest river I've ever seen, ever flying here in Papua New Guinea. Probably anywhere in the world I've ever flown, this is probably the prettiest river. It'd be an awesome float trip, like on inner tubes or something. But the water is so crystal clear, and it's like almost like an aqua green kind of color. I'll have to see if I can pick it up on the video at all today, but it is absolutely spectacular. Right, well, while we are in like the slow part, let me get my autopilot on, and let's bring up the strip chart for Lele. Right, so Lele elevation is 1,400 feet, so our pattern altitude is going to be 2,400 feet. We'll land on runway 20. It's just a one-way airstrip. Length 600 meters long, and it's a 10% slope, so it's a pretty decent hill. And yeah, we can land with 8 knots of tailwind if we have like a full load, but which we do not today. Empty with just 60 kgs worth of stuff underneath. So basically I'm going out there picking up 7 people, bringing it back to Hoskins. There's also a lake out here. Like, it's weird to think that lakes are actually like an oddity, but here in Papua New Guinea, like, you don't see lakes very often. I think I can probably count on like 2 hands how many lakes there are that I've seen in Papua New Guinea. It's really crazy. So anyways, this is a lake, and there isn't anybody that even lives around it. Like, I think that people would be living on the lake, but I guess if you're only just a few miles from the ocean, you know, why? But anyways, yeah, I'm always wondering if there's fish in there. I have no idea. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and it's a decent sized lake, at least for here in Papua New Guinea. Like, most of the lakes are, I would say, more like almost pond size, and so they aren't really lakes. But anyways, this is the actual lake. Those 2 mountains out there, those are both volcanoes. The far one actually exploded. It wasn't last year. I think it was 2018. It exploded. It erupted, and it was a huge eruption. So that was pretty impressive. But it kind of messed up our whole flight schedule for probably at least a month or so on getting our flights done out here in the islands. And then all those little islands way out there, also that look like little volcanoes, are definitely volcanoes. Pretty much we're in the ring of the fire right here, so I don't know if you can see this, but yeah, let me just bring it up on this so you can see. Yeah, so these little mountains out there, those little islands, those are volcanoes. We got a volcano here and a volcano here, and then down in this whole area here are more volcanoes. This is down by Rabaul area. That's the one that erupted years and years ago. And then we've got some along this little island here, or not island, but peninsula, and then some down here. And these are all active ones that are actually like smoking, and I haven't seen lava come out of these ones yet. I have on Monum, which is like up in here area. But this one down here, actually, I've seen smoke regularly. This one here always is smoking. And this one here is the one that erupted pretty large a couple of years ago. Alright, this river, I don't think it's going to show up very good in the actual camera or not, but this river right here looks like the perfect float trip ever. It looks super, super shallow. The water's almost green, but it's absolutely perfectly clear. Yeah, absolutely stunning. Alright, just right over top of this ridge that we're heading to is the lake. We'll fly over there, then we'll probably climb back up. We're right at pattern altitude, just a little bit above it, but I think we actually might have to climb a little bit higher, potentially from these clouds that are off my left, or there might be some mountains that are a little bit higher up here. I don't quite remember, but I might be able to stay right around 3,000. Alright, well, let me just put my bypass on real quick. We'll drop down over this just so you guys can get a better look at this lake, because it is just such an incredible place. And PNG in general is pretty awesome. I wish you could see a little bit more 360. Maybe someday I'll actually get a 360 camera and throw it out on the wing so that I can kind of turn to the side and down. Actually, that's a great idea. Maybe I'll get a 360 camera so that I can, show you guys the waterfalls and things that I want to that are off the side or down below me. That's actually really good. I'll do that. Maybe throw it out on that wing and then just have like a standard one.
Caution, terrain.
Oh, yes.
Caution, terrain.
Thank you, Betty. She's always so good about reminding you. Alright, this is the lake here. It just is, it's kind of a little bit down in this bowl, or half of a bowl. Just such a beautiful place. Alright, I've got to climb up to probably 3,500 feet to get up over top of these mountains in front of me, so I'm going to go ahead and start that. Bring my ITT up to 720. We'll leave our prop the same. And start pitching up for about 11 or 12 degrees on our attitude indicator. That's going to give us probably pretty close to our best rate of climb, which is get the most altitude in a specific amount of time. Right, actually there's 3,200 feet and I'm already seeing up over top of it, so let's just lower the nose, get our airspeed back up to our cruise, and then we'll bring our power back down to our fuel flow of 320. Alright, there we go. Alright, so now that we're not too far, 15 miles out, I'm going to put my altitude for my pattern altitude in here. We're just 1,000 foot over top of that right now, and we'll start going through our checklist for landing. So our selectors are both turned on, our brakes are good, our TAWs are Betty, she's turned off. Our VREF, turn to our aux page, we're at 5,200 pounds, so our approach speed is going to be 62 knots. I hit my timer reference and set my VREF at 62 knots. Our engine inlet is already on bypass. Our lights and inlet are already on. Give an area call.
All stations, Lele 127.1, Kodiak November Tango Kilo 12 miles to the west, below 5,000. Circuit time, Lele 13.
Again, someone else was asking, like, what do you mean by just time 13? We do everything here by Zulu time, so right now it's 2313. So for this hour, it's just time 13, 13 minutes after the hour, and that's all we do. So for landing next hour, we would say time 13 next hour. So thing 2 is special. So Lele is is notorious for super, I would say the muddiest, sloppiest landings I've ever had in my entire life. And what I mean by that is just like the water does not drain. So you land, and I've had it once where when I went into reverse, you know, at 50, 55 miles an hour, all of this big sheet of mud just came and covered the whole windshield and this whole window here, just because of the way the prop wash is. This whole window all the way to the front, all you can see out is this window here, and you're going 55 miles an hour down the runway. Now that can get pretty scary pretty quick. So this is notoriously for getting closed just because of having water drainage issues. This is the dry season right now. They had a little bit of rain yesterday and the day before, but before that it was completely dry, so it should be nice today. Alright, so we're landing on runway 20, so I'm going to hit my OBS button here now that we're pretty close, and turn my OBS to 200, and that puts a nice little line on my screen so that it shows me the orientation of the runway at all times. So this one, it's a pretty nice standard pattern, so it's not really necessary, but I just get in the habit of doing that. And it's really nice if you're like flying in like Oklahoma or something, and it's just this field that you're landing on. This is really a nice feature to be able to use, because there aren't any, like, there might not be good like landmarks or something like that where you want to line up either downwind, or you can't really see because it's just, there's nothing there. So anyways, this is a really nice way to do it. And then you can set up your heading bug to like perpendicular, so that you know when you're flying out towards your downwind or you're flying directly crosswind or something. So anyways, yeah.
All stations, Lele, Kodiak November Tango, Kilo. We'll be entering into the circuit on a left downwind, Lele.
Orders be 6622 November Tango Kilo. In the circuit, Lele, cancel SAR.
November Tango Kilo, Lele, SAR terminated.
November Tango Kilo. Alright, SAR is done. Abort emergency procedures. If we have to go around for kids or anything else that we might see on the runway, we're going to power up. Basically, what I mean by that is power up so that the white needle is coming up to the top of the green, but not into the yellow. 20 degrees of flaps. We'll do a left-hand turn out. Pitch for 73, and reset our torque to 740 on the ITT, which is basically the top of the green. Alright, let's start our descent to 2,400 feet for pattern altitude. And we're just 4 miles out. Push our prop forward to all of our 2,200 RPM. And harnesses are done. We've already talked to our port. We have flaps to go. Reducing my torque. We'll eventually bring my torque for pattern altitude stuff if you're interested. It's anywhere between depending how heavy you are. So we're light today, so it's probably going to be around 350 on my torque is going to give me my pattern altitude, be able to maintain my speeds. Or 450 if you're more heavy. So now that we're just 2 miles out, I'm going to bring my torque all the way back down to 350 and about. 138 knots, first degrees of flaps. It is just a gorgeous day out here too, which is really, really nice. Alright, 20 degrees of flaps, below 120 knots. Basically go 1.6 on our distance from the field before we turn our base. And then basically once I line up with the river, I can't go below 1,900 feet before turning final. I'm saying this to myself because I always have a low approach at this place for some weird reason.
Mosby 1271, Bravo Echo November.
Alright, we're going to want 82 knots on our downwind, 72 on base, 62 final. For 20 degrees of flaps. And just slowing down now by around 300 foot-pound of torque. There is our pattern altitude, so a little high right now. Yeah, we're going to want about 200 feet before, right about where we want to turn base. So we lose 200 feet, and then we're right at 500 feet. There's 1.6, there's the river, we're already at 20 degrees. Now we're slowing to 72 knots, and not going below 1,900 feet. Alright, full flaps checklist is complete. Turning final. This plane does not like flying 62 knots. Anything below 64 knots when you're this light is a really hard time. I'm a little shallow on my descent, just coming in at 300 feet per minute, so there again, just sagging on my approach.
500.
Alright, coming up on our committed. Alright, we're committed to land. Ooh, it's dry and rough. Alright guys, this is Lele. Thanks for joining me along on this flight. If you guys are interested in watching that other video on the ground, check out the link below, definitely. And yeah, if you guys like this content, be sure to subscribe. I put out videos twice a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And give this video a like if you did enjoy this little flight out here. So thanks again, guys, and have a good one. All right, turn my blowers off, landing light off, all the lights, the fuel pump, the aux bus, generator, alternator, V2, and cut off. And we'll turn our fuel off on the up. It's so annoying, on the upwing. Anyways, guys, thanks again for watching. Have a good one.